We usually think about numbers as just tools, right? For counting, for measuring. But what if I told you they were more than that? What if, hidden all around us in our calendars, our stories, our myths, numbers actually form a kind of symbolic language, a secret code of meaning? Let's dive in and see if we can crack it.
Think about it for a second. Haven't you ever noticed how some numbers just show up everywhere? Throughout history, across different cultures, the same numbers pop up over and over. Is that really just random chance, or is there something deeper going on? I mean, these patterns are so baked into our world that we barely even think about them anymore. 7 days in a week, 12 months, 4 seasons, the 10 Commandments. These weren't just random numbers somebody pulled out of a hat. They feel foundational. They hint at a much bigger, more universal significance. So, for this explainer, let's put on our code breaker hats. We're going to explore this secret language and start to figure out the symbolic meaning that numbers have been carrying with them for thousands of years. Okay, so just like any language, you have to start with the alphabet, and the language of numbers is no different. The foundational letters, if you will, are the single digits, 1 through 9. Each one has its own core symbolic energy that acts as a building block for everything else. Let's kick things off with 1. It's the beginning, right? The origin. It stands all by itself, representing unity, pure power, and the start of absolutely everything. Think about it. In so many creation stories, it all begins from a single source. That's the energy of 1. It's that primordial I am. And then, of course, you get 2. And 2 immediately introduces this idea of duality. For everyone, there's an other. Day and night, good and evil, yin and yang. 2 is the number of balance, of reflection, and partnership. Now 3. 3 is where the magic really starts to happen. It's often seen as the first number of true wholeness and harmony. It represents a trinity, like mind, body, and spirit, and that creates a really stable, complete structure. It's no wonder so many stories have 3 acts. It's literally the number of creation. Okay, now let's talk about 4. Think about how stable it feels. It represents order, the material world. We've got the 4 seasons, the 4 cardinal directions, north, south, east, west. It's solid, it's grounded, it's earthy. And then, after all that stability from 4, you get 5, and it just explodes with energy. 5 is the number of humanity, of our experience in the world. It stands for our 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. And because it's so tied to how we perceive reality, it's also linked to freedom, change, and adventure. 6. 6 brings us right back down to earth. It's all about us, humanity, but with a real focus on our worldly existence. In a lot of traditions, man was created on the 6th day. And because of that, 6 represents human effort and our achievements, but also our imperfections and our earthly limits. And after all that human work in number 6, what comes next? 7. 7 is the number of spiritual completion and perfection. You've got 7 days in the week, and the 7th is a day of rest. It's this powerful signal that a cycle is finished and all is as it should be. Okay, now just look at the shape of the number 8. If you tip it on its side, what do you see? Exactly, the infinity symbol. And that perfectly captures its meaning. New beginnings, endless cycles, and infinite untapped potential. And that brings us to 9, the big finale of the single digits. As the last one, it represents the culmination of a whole cycle, the end of a chapter. It symbolizes the wisdom you gained from experience, spiritual enlightenment, and finally completing a long journey before you start a new one. All right, so we've got our alphabet, but you can't tell a story with just letters, right? Now let's see how these numbers combine, like words and sentences, to create much more complex patterns and ideas. A perfect example of this is the relationship between 6 and 7. On one hand, 6 represents the absolute peak of human effort, which by its very nature is imperfect. But then you have 7, which represents adding that divine spark, which brings all that effort to a state of spiritual completion. It's basically the story of humanity reaching for something more. And it's not just pairs. You see these whole families of numbers that tell a similar kind of story. Take a look at these numbers of trial and preparation. 40 often symbolizes a period of intense testing, like 40 days and nights of rain. 38 can represent a long, arduous wait for healing, and 20 can signify that perfect period of waiting just before redemption. See how they're all related? They each speak to a different kind of endurance. So if 1 through 9 are the alphabet, now we're getting into what you might call advanced grammar. There are these special numbers with an elevated power, numbers that carry some seriously intense spiritual vibrations, and point to even deeper mysteries.
Let's look at the master numbers 11, 22, and 33. You can almost think of them as levels. 11 is like that first spark of intuition, a spiritual awakening. 22 takes that spark and becomes the master builder, the one who turns that vision into a reality. And then you have 33, which represents the highest level, divine purpose and selfless service to the world. It's a really clear spiritual journey.
All right, let's tackle the big one, the one everyone knows, 666. It's so often feared, but its symbolic meaning is actually a really powerful lesson. Remember how 6 is the number of man? Well, repeating it 3 times just hammers home the idea of human imperfection, of materialism, of falling short when we don't have divine guidance. It's a symbol of humanity at its most worldly, completely cut off from the spiritual.
Now, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have a number you might not have even thought about, 153. This seems pretty random, right? But in the biblical story, it's the exact number of fish the disciples caught in that miraculous catch. Because of that, 153 has come to symbolize divine fullness, miraculous abundance, and bringing everyone together.
And then you get numbers that represent concepts so big they're hard to even wrap your head around, like 1,000. I mean, this quote really says it all. 1,000 isn't just a bigger number. It's a symbol of ultimate fullness, of divine glory, of limitless expansion. It's the voice of eternity itself. Just wow.
So there you have it. We've kind of cracked the basic code, haven't we? We've seen how the single digits are like an alphabet, how they combine to form patterns, and how some special numbers carry this profound, almost mysterious weight. And once you see it, it gives you a whole new lens for reading the world.
And really, that's the whole point. The big takeaway here is this. Numbers aren't just for counting things, they're for understanding them on a much deeper level. They offer this hidden layer of symbolic meaning that can bring new depth and new context to stories, to history, and, well, even to our own lives. Which, of course, brings it all back to you. I want you to look around. Think about your age, your address, the dates that are important to you. If numbers really are a language, what story are the numbers in your life trying to tell?